In this special AFCON episode of the unofficial Sonny and Cher Fantasy Podcast, we discuss which players are leaving for the African Cup of Nations starting on the 21st of December, who are the most owned across the game, and their like-for-like replacements for the next game weeks. And Butler and I will discuss how we are planning to use our 5 free transfers moving forward to ensure our teams are ready to face the intense schedule of the Christmas period. Hello and welcome to the Sonny and Cher Fantasy Pod. We're here on a Tuesday again this week with another little bonus set for our listeners because we are going to talk solely about AFCON because as you'll probably have seen, every player in FPL has now been given 5 free transfers due to players going off to the African Cup of Nations, which is very handy. I'm here with Butler as Ben is off in work in Chicago this week. Butler, I think these transfers are coming at the absolute perfect time for you, mate, aren't they? Yeah?
Oh, yes, mate. I think I've played around with these 5 transfers about 15 times. I've even done it where I've changed my whole team and taken -12. I've taken -8. So I'm even making more than 5 transfers, but I'm going to have to hold my nerve and just do 5, I think, this week. I even just tried to do 4, but I think I have to do 5. I can't not.
It is that, isn't it? Because I've been actually, me and Butler will talk about it later because we're going to talk about sort of our plans moving forward regarding our teams. But it's when you get 5, because I'm thinking, oh, it's like a free wild card. I'm going to use my 5. Then I heard people saying, I was listening to a few podcasts earlier about, oh, they're going to do 1 or 2 and keep 3 in the bank. I was like, nah, I fancy doing the whole switcheroo. What about you?
Yeah, as I said, I think I've kind of played around with it and I thought, well, maybe I just do 2 and then save some. Maybe I just do 1 and save some. But then I thought, no, I've got 5. I might as well use all 5.
Oh,
It's
exactly
just to see what everyone does.
Yeah, it will. It'll be good. It'd be good. But I'll just start us off. I just wanted to go through with sort of some of the players that are actually going to the African Cup of Nations. We know the obvious players, but it's still quite interesting to see how many are sort of leaving from each team. But we'll sort of go through the teams. So Aston Villa. So Villa's only player at AFCON will be Ivory Coast forward Evan Gassond. However, the 24-year-old has only started 5 Premier League matches, so Villa will be confident of coping without him. Bournemouth, like Villa, Bournemouth should not be too affected by AFCON. Attacking midfielder Amin Adil is likely to be in the Morocco squad, but he's only started once, I think, and they're very, very lucky that actually Antoine Semenyo's Ghana did not qualify for the competition. Brentford will have 2 players going off to AFCON, including 1 first-team regular. Club signing Dango Atara will feature for Burkina Faso. Brighton must do without Cameroon midfielder Carlos Baleba, who started nearly every game this season. Luckily, Yankuba Mintez Gambia did not qualify. Burnley will have 3 players at the tournament. Former England under-21 defender Axel Tuanzebe will play for DR Congo, and striker Lyle Foster could feature for South Africa, while playmaker Hannibal Mejbri is in line to represent Tunisia. Palace, as we know, the biggest blow for Palace will be the loss of Senegal winger Ismaila Sarr, who scored 8 goals in all competitions this season. Obviously, he's injured currently, but I'm sure he will be fit. I'm glad he's going, so he's out of my team because he's done absolutely sweet FA since I've had him in, which is ridiculous. Everton will lose 2 members of their starting 11, both to Senegal. 4 goal forward Iliman and Dye, and midfielder Idrissa Gueye. So 2 big players, I think, particularly in Dye. He got 2 more assists at the weekend. Fulham will see 3 players all go off to join Nigeria. Midfielder Alex Iwobi and defender Calvin Bassey have played every game in the league this year, while winger Samuel Chukwueze is now beginning to feature. I think he got his first start against Palace yesterday. Liverpool, 8th place Liverpool, which they're not 8th now. That was done a few weeks ago. They're below that, but they'll only lose 1 player. Obviously, one of the greatest footballers ever, Mo Salah, scored 5 times so far in an underwhelming campaign. And I think this has probably come at a very good time to him. We will discuss more about that situation in this week's main pod on Friday. Man City, title chasing City have two players going off to AFCON, but neither have played all that much this season because of injury. Egypt forward Marmoush has started 2 Premier League games with 3 starts for Algeria left back Rayan Aït-Nouri. United's right-hand side will have a very difficult look to it over the festive period. Cameroon forward Brian Mbeumo and 2 players have featured at right wing back. Ivory Coast Diallo and Morocco's Nasser Mazraoui are all heading off next month. Newcastle, the only potential departure for Newcastle would have been Johan Wissa, but the Democratic Republic of Congo did not call him up due to the knee injury he sustained playing for them in the first international break. So Newcastle are going to have Wissa for this period. He's just coming back, so that is a touch for them. Forest have up to 4 players who will leave for AFCON. It could be as low as 1 though. Midfielder Ibrahim Sangare is the one who's certain to go to be involved with the Ivory Coast. Sunderland, this season's surprise package. 4th place Sunderland will be the worst affected team by far, with 7 players due to leave. They have Moroccan winger Tailbi, Senegal midfielder Habib Diarra, Mozambique fullback Reynaldo, Ivory Coast winger Simon Adingra, Burkina Faso forward Bertrand Traore, and the Democratic Republic of Congo pair Arthur Masuaku and Noah Siddique. So the majority of them are actually first-team regulars with 50 Premier League appearances between them this season. Spurs might have 2 midfielders going off, Senegal's Pape Matar Sarr and Mali's Yves Bissouma. Bissouma's not played for Spurs this season and had an ankle injury in October. Mohamed Kudus, though, will be available for his club because, again, Ghana failed to qualify, which is very, very lucky for Spurs. Struggling West Ham will lose both of their starting fullbacks for a few weeks. Right back Aaron Wan-Bissaka will link up with DR Congo, while left back El Hadji Malik Diouf will play for Senegal. I think, actually, those are 2 very, very big losses for West Ham. And then finally, Wolves are bottom of the Premier League and without a win, and 5 players will jet off. Zimbabwe pair Marshall Manetsi and Tawanda Chirewa, Ivory Coast defender Emmanuel Agbadu, Nigeria striker Tolu Orokodere, and Cameroon fullback Jackson Chachua will all be heading off. So, Butler, I've sort of whistled through those. What do you think about some of those? We'll get into the nitty-gritties in a sec, but just pull out a few of those names for me. Who do you think are going to be the big losses out of those? I know there's quite a few that aren't necessarily that heavily owned in fantasy, but what do you think?
There's 2 clubs that stand out to me.
Yeah.
One of them is United, just because they're short up front anyway, with Sesko injured. Cunha's still coming back, and he's only got 1 goal. With Diallo and Mazraoui also being out for them, it'd be really interesting to see who he plays at right wing back now. So United, for me, will be an interesting to see how they get on with that. And then the other one really is Sunderland, with all those players out for the AFCON. That's either really bad planning on their behalf, or they just did not care who they were buying in summer, because that's a lot of players. Obviously they've done so well so far, and a lot of their teams stayed pretty the same through the season. So it'd be interesting to see, especially now with games coming thick and fast. It'd be really interesting to see how they get on over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was actually really surprised by how I knew quite a few of Sunderland's players were going. I was actually surprised how many of them are actually first team regulars. It's the majority. And if you even talk about that Tailbi lad, like he's come off the bench and scored 2 massive goals. I think one was against Chelsea and one was recently against someone else. But yeah, huge misses. But we'll actually just go into now. I just highlighted the most owned players heading to AFCON. And we can then focus on maybe the top 3 and think about our like-for-like replacement. So, obviously, the top owned player across the game is Brian Mbeumo. He's still 30.5% owned. Then we have Mohamed Salah, who astonishingly is still 18.3% owned. And then Iliman Ndiaye, who's in 3rd, who's 9.5% owned.
Peaks is going to cry when this week.
Absolutely. And do you know what? He's probably one of the most informed midfielders currently. I know he's not scoring regularly, but he gets assists for fun, doesn't he, and But last week we actually did an AFCON collaboration with FPL Too Good to give people some options for their replacements for popular FPL assets going away, but also some short-term, medium-term moves for the upcoming game week. So a big shout out to FPL Theory, and thanks for bringing us on board with that. And looking forward to producing more content with you guys in the foreseeable future because we've loved doing that. So we're just going to talk about now replacements for those three players that I mentioned. So we'll start with Mbuemo. I've put here, I know we talked about him and Ben talked about him last week in the pod, Phil Foden. So he now costs 8.5 million, so his price is absolutely flying up, and his ownership is now 24.6%. It's actually quadrupled in the last 10 days, his ownership. Double-digit hauls 3 weeks in a row. Looks to be back to his form he showed in the 23-24 season when he won PFA Player of the Year. And City's fixtures are excellent moving forwards. Maybe not this weekend, Palace away. Then they've got West Ham at home, Forest away, and Sunderland away up till Christmas. I know you didn't bring him in, Butler, this week, but I actually swapped him in for Semenyo that I was really, really happy about. What are you thinking with Foden moving forward? I know you said to me before that he was coming straight in.
Yeah, he's coming straight in my team. As of using one of these transfers that I'm getting, he's 100% coming in for Semenyo. It's nothing against Semenyo. He's been like, I did read a stat that actually he's been getting chances, etc., etc. He's in the right place, just not converting. But I think if Foden's become that go-to player, it'd just be typical though that I put him in my team and he doesn't do anything for 3 weeks, and that'll be the rest of that. So.
Oh, I had that thought as well. And then obviously goal and assist again was just, it was the nicest feeling when you actually bring someone in who scores and actually for someone else who blanks. I don't think I've had that all bloody season. But I'll actually just put, before we move on to like replacements for Ndai, I just wanted to put under that Brian Mbuemo bracket 2 Newcastle players who I'm definitely considering. One is Bruno Guimaraes, 6.9 million. Comfortably Newcastle's top point scorer this season with 81 points. 31 of those in the last 4 game weeks, 2 goals, 2 assists. And he's one of the most informed midfielders in the league. And the other, I was actually really thinking when I was doing my drafts, we'll go on to that a bit later, is Anthony Gordon. 7.2 mil now, which I quite like because his price has gone down because he's obviously been injured. But 2 goals in his last 2 games on penalties, massive differential at 2.1% owned. What do you think about those 2 Newcastle assets moving forward, mate?
Anthony Gordon, I think definitely starting to find his fitness and coming back in. The only thing I would say about Bruno is that he's gone on this epic run of getting loads of points. So it's inevitable that he's going to go quiet for a couple of games. Is it too late to jump on that bandwagon? Potentially.
Yeah.
But I suppose in the form that he's in, who knows, he could keep it going for the next couple of weeks. So it's one of those that you could definitely fancy it, especially since Declan Rice and Arsenal have gone a stuttering slightly. I think he could definitely be an option. Yeah,
Because I was interested actually, because I think at the start of the season, Gordon and Guimaraes were quite far apart price wise. Whereas now, obviously Guimaraes has done well. Gordon hasn't been playing. There's only 0.3 million between them. So when I was putting a few drafts together of what I want to do with these 5 transfers, I want to get one of them in, and it actually doesn't actually make much of a difference, which I was really happy with. It's not like Gordon's 8 mil and Guimaraes is 6 mil. It's really, really close. So if you do fancy Gordon, if he's going to get the starts and on pens, like you said, I'm leaning more towards Gordon just because, like you said, I'm worried about Guimaraes' sort of points drying up, if you know what I mean.
yeah, I know what you mean. It'd be really interesting, won't it, to see. I'm really intrigued to see who's going to come in people's teams. Bruno's definitely one. I think you can't also either look past Morgan Rogers either at the moment at
Yeah,
6.9 million. I think that's definitely very much an option alongside Bruno. If you're going to try and get him in, so he'd be another one that I would line up in that bracket. He's one that's gone into a couple of my drafts.
yeah,
So if you look at Phil Foden, then I think he's in that conversation as well.
definitely, definitely. We'll just go into that sort of price bracket below that. So to replace and die, and then it was Saar a couple of weeks ago. Saar's ownership's dropped to 3.9%, and Dye's is just under 10%, but 6.6 million. So I just looked at a few players that are around this price bracket and below. So within that, when we did that collaboration with FPL Too Good, I had a couple of shouts in there, and all three of the lads who I shouted are actually scoring. So I was quite chuffed with that. But one of them is Dominic Szoboszlai. So he costs exactly the same as Ndiaye at 6.6 mil. He's only 5.6% owned. Played 90 minutes in every Prem game for Liverpool this season, and he looks like he's now going to be back playing in his normal centre mid position with Gomez and Bradley rotating at right back. 4 DEFCON points in 12 games. However, he scored 11 in 1 and 10 in 2. Scored against Leeds on Saturday. I know they're not in good form, but he's been, along with Ekatike, their best player by a mile this year. And their next 4 fixtures are Brighton at home, Spurs away, Wolves at home, and Leeds at home. Like, the fixtures are insane. I just can't. I'm not sure about Liverpool players. I'm talking about Van Dijk. Like, I want to keep him in. Those fixtures are so good, but I can't.
No, you can't. No, the simple answer is no, you can't. I get what you're saying with Szoboszlai. He's a good option, but I just don't. Liverpool are such a mess. There's a lot of poison clearly in that changing room right now as well with what's gone on with Salah. As you said, we'll talk more on that tomorrow. But I don't know. If I'm honest, I wouldn't lean towards Szoboszlai. I'd probably go like somewhere else, like Elliot Anderson or somewhere along those lines. If you want DEFCON points, etc., etc.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
your other two that you're probably going to mention in a minute are probably better options anyway. To be fair.
But yeah, we'll move on. As Butler said, like, I think Szoboszlai, if he does what he did Saturday, he will be good. But his points, he's not consistent point scorer. But I've got 2 players now, sort of very, very cheap options, but I think are amazing punts to go, particularly Harry Wilson at Fulham. So he's 5.2 million, 1.3% owned. He's actually now Fulham's highest scoring player this season with 62 points. 26 of those scored in the last 3 game weeks with 2 goals and 2 assists. And like I said, it's an excellent gamble for the next 3 weeks with Fulham's fixtures: Burnley away, Forest at home, West Ham away. And I think he's a great 5th midfielder alongside, as Butler said, Elliot Anderson and the man we're going to talk about now, Keenan Dewsbury Hall. So Dewsbury Hall, 5.1 million, 6.6% owned. Everton's second highest point scorer with 74 points behind Michael Keane with 76. He's actually the most informed midfielder in the league alongside Phil Foden, scoring 48 points in his last 5 game weeks with 3 goals and 2 assists. Like, he's a serious footballer and unbelievable value for his current output. And like I said, an excellent midfielder to sort of swap in and out of when the fixtures are good. But what do you think about those 2, Butler? Like, I love Wilson and, well, I like Dewsbury Hall. One of them is definitely going to be in my team. I'm not sure which yet.
I'd lean towards Harry Wilson because of the fixtures.
Yeah.
And Kiernan, not Keenan. Kiernan, you live in Ireland, you should know. He's another great option, but they have got 2 tough games coming up with Chelsea and Arsenal. So
Yeah.
I would 100% more likely probably go towards Harry Wilson. Plus, Harry Wilson's probably a good option for when your more premium midfielders come back in, that he can sit on your bench quite happily because he's not expensive. So I think he's probably a better option, but that's mainly based on fixtures. You know, Dewsbury Hall is in great form for Everton, and he has been all season. To be fair, he's been good since the beginning.
Definitely. And I think the thing with Wilson, like I've got Josh King currently. He's only 4.5, but bless him, like he's done all right this year, but he's had literally no points. Like Wilson has got quite a good route to points, and obviously you saw by his goal yesterday, absolutely, he's actually an unbelievable footballer, like
King's been benched
worldy.
now, though, hasn't he?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's been benched now by Smith Rowe, hasn't he? Smith Rowe's taken his place. So
yeah, no, I know, but no, that's and then we'll just finish. I just put here we had to sort of just mention it slightly. Like I said, Salah is still somehow 18.3% owned across the game, which is absolute madness. People still persisting with him. 14.1 mil. But if you still have him, I just put one player that potentially could be on people's horizons now again, and it's Cole Palmer. So he's 10.3% owned. Sorry, 10.3 million, 10% owned. Really is a gamble with Palmer coming back from a long injury absence, having missed 10 out of the 15 game weeks already this season. He started against Bournemouth on Saturday, but only played 57 minutes. I do think he will be a minute's risk in the next few fixtures as he finds his feet again, but could be worth putting in your team if we see some consistent 90 minutes in the tank over the next month. I also think he'll be managed a lot over the Christmas period in terms of minutes. However, it could be an excellent differential if you time it right, which I think has been the story for success this year in FPL. But I know you mentioned Palmer last week, mate. What are your thoughts on Cole going forwards?
it's a wait and see with Cole Palmer at the moment. I'd love for him to come back and be ready. I think all it will take is that, as you say, he's a minute's risk, right? They're not going to just throw him back in every game now. They've got Champions League this week. We'll have to wait and see what happens over the next couple of weeks. But he's definitely someone on my radar that I'll be like, okay, can I get him in at the right time as a differential as he's starting to come back into the team? So he's definitely an option, and definitely someone that I'm looking at.
Yeah, no, I'd love to just put him in and him to start having a worldie. It would be the best, but I just don't think he's worth it currently. Like you said, we need to have a look at him before he actually gets put in teams. But we'll finish this little bonus episode by just talking about our plans with our 5 transfers. I know we've been texting quite a bit about doing drafts, and I think you had an episode with a knife at the weekend, so you went to hospital and then you had a lot of time to look at your 5 transfers. But I'll start with you, mate. What are you planning on doing? I know you don't want to give it away because of our head-to-head league, but I think it's interesting to sort of see your thoughts about sort of particular teams to be targeting with these free transfers.
My initial gut reaction is, how can you look past Aston Villa right now, realistically? Like, they're in such good form. They've just beaten Arsenal. I know they've got a couple of tough games coming up, but they've got West Ham this weekend. They've then got United, and I think United will be really, as I said at the beginning, it'll be interesting to see where United go. Then they've got Chelsea, and then they've got Arsenal again. For me, gut instinct would be like, you've got to have at least a couple Villa players in there. Probably one of them would be Matty Cash in the form that he's in and how good he's been this season. And then Morgan Rogers would probably be my other. They would be my first look. I think I've already mentioned Elliot Anderson as a potential cheaper option in there. Again, if you don't have Palace defenders, what are you doing? You've got to get one at least, especially now with Munoz potentially injured. You've got to have at least Gahey or one of those other centre-backs in there. I think Foden again is a most definite option that I'm leaning towards. As I said, Siege, I could do with a whole wild card, but I've only got 5. I'm trying to just. I said to myself at the beginning, I need to upgrade my goalie. I stuck too long with Petrovic. Hasn't done enough for me. Bring in Ramsdale at the weekend. He concedes in the 90th minute. Don't want Newcastle. So I'm either going to go to the Arsenal of David Raya, or I'm going to Emi Martinez at Villa in goal. I've then said, right, I'll get a premium defender in. I haven't got an Arsenal defender in at the moment with Gabriel being out injured, but then I'm torn between him and Matty Cash. So it's like, well, which one do I have? And then I thought, well, then I need two in midfield, and then I'll finish off with maybe upgrading the strikers. So then in midfield, I'm probably going to add Phil Foden and Rodgers, as I've already said. And then up front, it's probably a bit of a gamble, but I worked out that I've got a bit of cash left over if I chop Mateta, because he's not doing anything, he's not scoring goals, and he's probably not worth the 7.8 million he's now worth, or 8 million he's now worth. I could take a real gamble and go back to Gyökeres at Arsenal, because I think he's going to be valuable for them and he's important and they need him back. So he could be a gamble to have up front. That's potentially where I'm leaning right now. But that may change in the next few days. Let's see.
Yeah, it's one of those. Yeah, no, I'm sort of very similar. It's funny, Villa didn't even cross my mind. I know they're in form, but it's just who to pick. And I don't want to get rid of, because I've got O'Reilly in defence, which I really like. I know he hasn't done that well the last couple of weeks. He obviously got a clean sheet at the weekend. I've got Timber and Gay, so they're definitely staying. The only one is Van Dijk. Do I keep him? Do I get rid? I've actually looked at doubling up on the Arsenal defence with Ben White, potentially. Like, because Mosquera, Saliba...
Arsenal without Gabriel and... but without Gabriel and Saliba, they look weak, right?
Yeah, but I was just thinking of potentially doing it for this weekend against Wolves. Wolves at home, get some points, and then change White maybe down to a Matty Cash or something like that, or an Anderson at Fulham, which I think is a good shout. But Van Dijk down to Anderson, you save yourself 1.5 million, I think, or something like that. But that was my thoughts at the back. And then
I've already got Anderson.
I think Bruno's definitely coming in. After I saw him score tonight, he's coming in. Harry Wilson's probably coming in. And then I've got to decide what I want to do up front. I'm definitely getting rid of Mateta. And I'm thinking a short-term punt is going for Raul Jimenez for the next 3 games. And playing a front three potentially.
That is a punt.
It is bold. He's on pens. Or I put Gordon in. So my midfield would be Saka, Foden, Gordon, Bruno Fernandes, Wilson. Then I'd just have Haaland and Thiago up front and just have maybe a Callum Wilson to be that third striker. So I'm debating but then again, Liverpool's fixtures, do I keep Van Dijk? I'm really umming and ahhing. I'm not sure I can face keeping him. But the only other thing I wanted to talk to you about, I know you said about Gyökeres. What do you think about Ekitike?
What do I think about Ekitike? I think he's Liverpool's best player right now. I think. But he's a minute's risk with Isak. I don't know. I don't know. He's not going to play every game. That's my point. Be really interesting to see what they do now. Well, obviously Salah's gone for a month. If he's going to start every game, yeah, 100%. But I don't think he's going to start every game. So that puts you at, that's a lot of money to have a risk of someone who's not going to start every game.
And it'll be interesting to actually see who he starts midweek in Milan. Like, if he starts Isak, I think that's probably saying to Ekitike he's going to start in the Prem games, which if he does start Isak, I will be really interested in Ekitike because, like I said, who have they got at home in 3 or 4 games time? They've got Wolves and Leeds at home back to back. Like that is.
But I don't think that matters, mate. I don't think it matters.
Yeah.
Don't think it matters.
But
so poor right now.
I know. But finally, just to finish, just with the 5 transfers, I know we get 5. I know you're talking about using 5, but do you think it's a good thing to maybe use 2 or 3 and keep 2 in the bank? What do you honestly think about that? I think personally, I'm with you. Like having 5, it's like a mini wild card, and then you get another wild card in like 4 weeks. I think to use the 5 transfers is a no-brainer, really.
Yeah, I think so. I think there'll be some people as well that take more than 5, and basically play a whole wild card and take a light minus, a -8 or so, and then you're doing 7 transfers. That's your whole team pretty much to how you want it to be, and then you don't need to use that wild card when you get it again in 3-4 weeks time. So that's all you do because it doesn't pay off. We'll see. I think we'll see.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. But that brings us to the end of our little bonus set. Really enjoyed that. Really enjoyed talking a bit of fantasy. I know we're exchanging drafts pretty regularly, aren't we, Butler, mate, to be fair? But we will be releasing our normal pod on Friday. We're going to be joined by James Trott and listening to his tactics around his low-scoring year so far and what I'm sure we'll be talking a bit about the Dons. I need to do my homework actually. I was thinking about doing a little AFC Wimbledon quiz at the end, which will be quite class, especially as I'm not participating. But it'll be good to have Trotty on, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Looking forward to having Trotty on. Can't wait. He's a good friend of mine, and as I said, like as you already just said, a fellow Dons fan. But Siege, if you're going to do a Wimbledon quiz, make sure it's an AFC Wimbledon quiz, not just the old Wimbledon FC. I don't mind if we bring a bit of Robbie Earle back in, or a bit of John Hartson, or a bit of those Neil Sullivans. But if you could stick to AFC, that makes it even more challenging. So it'd be interesting to see how much James really knows about the AFC Wimbledon. But
yeah,
there we go.
Absolutely right. Last thing to do. May the fantasy gods be with you, chaps. Bye bye.
Cheers, mate. It's the Sonny and Shah Fantasy League.
And even though Son has left for the MLS,
our head-to-head league is still the best. Hosted by
Alex,
Ben,
CJ,
ABC.
Easy as 1, 2, 3.
It's another fantasy podcast.
Oh, fuck me.